Just never would have met your father.
This is what I do when I get off the YouTube.
Oh my! Oh,
Whoa,
hey,
whoa.
whoa.
Hey.
Are you feeling a slight cough at all?
No.
That's how you know it's working. Antifa's an asshole in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood, in your neighborhood.
So we're going to talk about the Cube Center.
Okay.
However, it's not really just about the Cube Center.
Oh my God.
Of course.
It's about...
It never is.
Nope.
Let's go to chat.
Yeah. What is a good way to refute the assertion that public services are socialism?
What is the legitimate purview of government? It really comes down to keeping the people safe from internal and external threats. That includes the military, police, the National Guard, and making sure that everyone is playing by the rules. Outside of that, it really isn't the government's job to step in our way.
Ultimately, YouTube wants to be TV, which means that YouTubers will now have to live under the standards that TV people do. And unless you're making fun of the president every single night, including for things like his physical appearance.
We do have funny
that's
hair,
not
but yeah.
okay. Yeah.
You the hair goes like this. It's like...
Subject for today.
Oh,
Hey,
Very good slurp.
that's
What?
a level of
Steve-
difficulty.
Wow.
Is there something
that
different about you?
was impressive.
So then, what?
Is there something different about
It's
you?
a spit hood.
Oh.
I got myself a spit hood and the COVID hood.
It must be hard to breathe in that thing.
Yeah,
No,
Is it-
this is actually, by the way, we have Rand Paul on the show today.
that's
We'll be
right.
talking about the new release of Cuties, as well as what Democrats plan to do, hint, White House siege, if Donald Trump wins re-election. So my question to you is, what do you expect the left to do if he wins? But yeah, this is an actual spit hood. We got it from a police officer.
Okay. Oh, that's nice.
This is the actual spit
Yeah.
hood. And look, I can drink from my cup.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
My worry, if
that's-
anything, my worry is that it might not actually work. Look, watch this.
Right, yeah.
Watch.
Oh, it does not
doesn't
work.
work at all.
Oh my
Slow it
gosh.
down.
Can
I don't
people
know.
yeah.
see that?
That's wow.
Yeah, are
I
you kidding
see
me?
that.
This is so much less intrusive,
Jeez.
Yeah.
obstructive. My desk is covered in my spit hood.
Well, that's true. I think you would
It's
have to
covered in my
actually.
spit hood remnants. It's like it's from a woman's negligee.
Yeah.
Where
We
it's
can see
like-
your face very clearly through the hood. I think you would actually have to try to suffocate.
You know how
Effort
women's
would be given.
magazines, they convince women, like, sometimes it's sexier if you wear a little bit of something. And so it's like, I'll
Yeah,
put on
yeah, a little
something
bit of
that
lace
is
or
see-through and
Yeah.
nothing.
Sheer.
That's this. I can't believe that anyone would complain about this. If I robbed a bank in this,
Yeah,
they'd be like, did you get a good look at him? Oh, it was Steven.
It's right
You
there.
robbed his
It was
bank.
you. That's a terrible
You're wearing a
mask.
Spit hood. Oh my gosh.
That's incredible.
We have a lot to get to here, by the way. My half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond,
Yo.
here. He was a little nervous about the spit hood. Quarter Black Garrett, Audio
okay,
Wade, G. Morgan Jr., Gerald A. has a little one.
He's doing very well.
Don't care.
Yes, you do. You love him.
We'll be talking about cuties today, and I was struggling with this. There's a lot to get to.
Oh my gosh.
Also,
Busy
all
day.
of the Democrats from major cities who have opted to support the defunding of police while upping their own security to the tune of many millions of dollars. Do we not have CNN this morning? Can someone get it up? Get it up
Really
going.
good.
Oh, I didn't want to throw up today.
I know.
Well, we know what they're covering. That's for sure.
But first, before we move on, Trevor Noah has something to say about gender reveal parties.
Celebrating a baby's genitalia is starting to feel very outdated. Like, given everything we're learning about gender reveal parties should only happen when the child is old enough to know their actual gender and to pitch in some cash for the fire damage.
So like 6 months down the line when they hit the casting call for cuties. Yeah. Or the latest Vox video about estrogen, about testosterone blockers.
They actually.
We shouldn't have a gender reveal party. And by the way, this is the same guy. I just wanted to hit on this because it will tie back to cuties. This is the guy who accuses everyone in this room, like us, of being anti-science.
Why does the news keep bringing on non-scientists to argue against science? I mean, CNN pays Rick Santorum to come on and talk that shit. This woman's group has gotten
almost
funding
laughed.
from oil companies. So why is the news having
That's
these
with an
climate
applause
deniers on?
sign.
And any normal president would at least pretend that the vaccine will be released based on science. But Trump doesn't even pretend.
Guy's got the worst poker face in the world.
Which, that's a good point, because that's with an applause sign.
yeah.
Either okay, there's one of two scenarios with Trevor
Right,
Noah's
yeah.
show. Either everyone, like the kind of people who smoke on a plane and ignore the sign and don't wear their seatbelt, look, the entire audience was filled to the brim with them, or Trevor Noah's not funny.
I leave it up to you.
B. Option B.
No. They were all asleep, Stephen.
Yes.
They couldn't make it. The shot collars weren't going.
Because he's not funny, though, so it does go back to option B.
By the way, please do consider joining Mug Club at loudwithcredit.com/MugClub. It's what allows us to do any of these programs, $69 for students, veterans, active military, and we will have a live stream on Tuesday of the entire President Trump town hall. Of course, you can also listen on Android and Apple, and listen for the secret hidden word that we put in the audio exclusive podcast.
Oh my gosh.
Come back here, comment it below, and you might get a lock of Gerald's hair. Let's see what they're showing on CNN.
Very likely. Let's check it out.
Right now, there's no reason for Americans to panic. This is something that is a low risk, we think, in the U.S. But President Trump, from the day he took office, made protecting Americans and keeping them safe, whether it's from terrorists or criminal organizations or from viruses like the new novel coronavirus.
We're going to get to this because this is what everyone is talking about. And the thing that actually Reg and I were talking about this, and he made a great point. If Woodward believed that Donald Trump was lying to the American public, it would whatever happened to the ethics in journalism, right? Like the Erin Brockoviches of the world. I know she wasn't a journalist. She was abroad with a push-up bra, something with tap water. But the point is, in films, they always show up, I must tell the people. I am the people's journalist. And in this case, if Woodward actually believed that Donald Trump was lying to the American public, it would have been his journalistic duty to tell somebody. He didn't think that. No one thinks that.
He had to wait till he could sell the book off of it, Stephen. Come on.
And of course, listen, tomorrow is the 19th anniversary of 9/11. And listen, we've talked about there are a lot of people who've been born after it who are about to go into college who don't really know what that was like. And it shaped all of our experiences. So here at Louder with Crowder, of course, we want to honor and remember those and actually remember what it was like that day when it happened, which we should have seen back then. The media bias.
It's all there.
And I was a little bit apprehensive about bringing up 9/11 at all because you get the conspiracy theorists who say, what about Tower 7? Listen, Tower 7, I get it, wouldn't have come down if the firefighters could have got there had BLM not been blocking the police line.
Again.
So always with the blocking.
They couldn't get there.
It's terrible.
Jeez.
Spit hood and 9/11 jokes.
That's how we start the show.
That's how we start the show. And it's not a 9/11 joke. It's a media is a horrible cesspool of filth and sadness.
Of course.
Joke.
It really is.
The media's always been a horrible trash heap. It's just that now with new media, or really as it's known to people under the age of 25, media. It just doesn't work anymore.
No, it's putting things in context.
Yeah.
It's reasonable.
Okay, so this is my question to you. What do you think that the left plans to do if and when Donald Trump wins the re-election? So I want to get into this because it is a little bit nutty when you see, and Rand Paul will be coming after this, up after this, we'll be talking about security. The left talking about how this will be an unjust election, how Donald Trump wants to erode the trust in American institutions. And by the way, you shouldn't trust American institutions, namely the ones that Donald Trump supports, which is how we've held our elections forever.
As long as we can remember.
And then they say, hey, we've also run numbers to see if Donald Trump wins and how the left reacts. It's not pretty. And then they call you Trumpkins and say Trumpkins have a conspiracy that there's going to be violent unrest if Donald Trump wins. I'm talking to you, Daily Beast. I don't know what your application process is, but I assume that it needs to include in the byline, filthy prick.
You have to check that box.
I have yet to read an article of any value at the Daily Beast within the last 3 years.
And you've been reading it every day.
All made my life a worse place for having read them. So, let's go through the list here because this is the narrative, right? Donald Trump wants to erode trust in American institutions. Nay, I believe that it's the left who wants to do that. Case number one, the man whose head seemingly continues to grow into the shape of the emoji eggplant, Mark Zuckerberg, on the election.
One of the things that I think we and other media need to start doing is preparing the American people that there's nothing illegitimate about this election taking additional days or even weeks to make sure that all of the votes are counted. In fact, that might be important to make sure that this is a legitimate and fair election. So we're going to do a bunch of different messaging around that just to make sure that people know that that's normal. So if one of the
it's not normal!
in any of the races
it's incredibly rare
before there's a consensus result, then we're going to add some informational context to that post directly, saying that there's no consensus result yet.
I'm going to fact check it with your Southern Poverty Law Center buddies. Look,
good.
We want people to know that if this election tends to be, if it appears to be an outlier to every other American election, by and large due to our underhanded methods, we want them to know that that's normal. It's not! Nope. It's not normal, and you're an asshole. Asshole. It is remarkable to me. Donald Trump wants to erode trust in American institutions. By the way that you've seen elections and watched election results come in for your entire lives and your parents' lives and your it's normal to not do that. We're going to do the opposite. It's like, you know what, the Super Bowl would be normal if instead they come out with baseball bats, strip naked, and sing clang, clang, clang with the trolley as they run down the field. Well, that's not normal. We'll go to you. What is normal?
It's not election
Zuckerberg
night
told me.
coverage. It's election month coverage, I think, now. So we have to have more CNN live streams. Is that accurate?
But this is not. Here's the thing. This is why this is so important to me. To me, I should say. That's the most powerful. That's someone more powerful than Caesar. Okay? Facebook, Alphabet, YouTube, you know all too well. Alphabet, YouTube, Google, and Twitter. They have more power than most nations could have ever dreamed, and they are echoing exactly what you see and hear from the top. How do I mean top? Number 1 and number 2 presidential choices, candidates from the DNC, Hillary Clinton. Here's what she had to say if Donald Trump wins.
You know, Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances because I think this is going to drag out. And eventually, I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch.
Drop the trap music under there.
He should not concede under any circumstances. Well, what if he loses?
Yeah, what about that?
Yay!
Well, hold on. She actually revealed her hand there. She said, I think if we drag this process out long enough, eventually he will win. Eventually we'll have enough time to rig or throw out Trump's votes or what? Eventually what? How are things going to change?
What's the plan?
With more time?
It cheats.
Yeah, exactly.
She cheats the election.
There's no
She plans
way.
to cheat. That's what she plans to do. When she said this, by the way, I guess it's par for the course. This is a lady who didn't come out to deliver her concession speech, and everyone said, "Thank the Lord above, we didn't put her in office." Could you imagine? Thank the Lord we didn't put her in office before she went through menopause. Could you imagine that 4 to 7 days each month? This lady wouldn't even show up to face the music and give a concession speech. And before that, it was a tired old trope like, "Oh, you don't want a female president because we're PMSing." And everyone said, "You really think that?" And women listed all the stuff that they do. And then the one presidential female candidate didn't come out and do what every other male had done, which is eat shit and take your loss.
What she did do was sit backstage and cry.
She cried.
No, she said, how? How is it possible? It can't be happening. This can't be happening.
My whole world is destroyed.
They went really quick from wearing it as a badge, like you throw like a girl, you hit like a girl, you cry like a girl, and their whole campaign was, yes, I am a girl. I am proud of it because we are strong. And then she lost. And which I was very confused because I didn't think she was capable of actual emotions.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know
It's
what
extra surprising.
you know what you're hearing right now is the spin on both of those conversations that's coming from the left, the excuses, if you will, right? The spokespeople that are coming out, they're all saying, no, look at Bush v. Gore, it took some time to figure it out. There may be some circumstances, but just like you said, Gerald, it's a very rare time, and what gives me pause is it's early September. Yeah. And you're saying now you're already kind of setting the stage for there to be this period of days or weeks, according to Zuckerberg, that it would take to actually even determine. But what are you saying? And that's what I'm most concerned about is them setting the stage for at the end to start letting the hijinks begin. I think the biggest problem is we don't know what the hijinks will be.
Right.
Yeah. But they're setting it all. It could be anything.
But when you do away with the entire standardized voting system, that's the thing. When they say Donald Trump's trying to steal the election, then Donald Trump says they're trying to steal the election. This is where you have to put on your rationalization cap. Hopefully it's thicker than a spit hood. And you say, hold on a second. Who is trying to pull a fast one on me? The one who is trying to ensure that elections are held fair and free the way they always have been, with a system of checks and balances where we do know that there's a certain baseline level of transparency that's expected, or the ones who want to try something completely new, a process shrouded in mystery, and tell us that the results could come in at some point in the indefinite future. Use your thinking cap. Who is trying to pull the spit hood over your eyes?
And what this is, though, is it's a very clear admission that they are now engaging in a process. They are asking states and they are encouraging states to engage in a process that will necessarily have to, unlike almost every other election we've ever had, and a very important election, take longer, be more complex, and thus more fraught with peril. The entire time they have said over and over again, there won't be any problem if we just at the last minute switch to an entirely different method of voting that allows people to fill out anything. And now they're saying, I know we said it wasn't going to be a problem, but actually getting a correct and timely result is not it's really not actually.
Now they're the
happen.
money pit construction workers. About 2 weeks. When are we going to get those results for the national election? 2 weeks? It's been 9 weeks now. 2 weeks.
2 more. Come
says
on.
Zuckerberg. 2 weeks, he says, Mr. Eggplant Head.
Well, I think we need to go back to Trevor Noah. We need the
Please
scientists. We need the science. We need science to tell us whether it's safe. We already have that. Fauci said it's safe to
Fauci
vote,
did say it was safe.
We're not anti-science.
Also, Nancy Pelosi said it was safe when she went into a particle vortex that was the air dryer.
And the people who were for 3 years saying that Trump stole the election are stealing the election in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
So these are the same people.
They're attempting
They have no
to.
standard.
They're trying.
They're attempting to. It's just like, listen, when people go into fights, if you look at any fighters, and we've had them on the show, remember Daniel Cormier was on the show, and he was known to have had a broken hand.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, no, you know what? I feel good. I don't know if you guys remember off air, he was like, yeah, I'm still actually kind of recovering. Because they don't want to, A, reveal their weakness to their opponent, but more importantly, they don't want to have an excuse. People of honor. Right now, this is like a fighter walking into the cage going, you know what? I'm going to do my best. Don't expect a lot from me. I pulled a hammy doing shuttle runs in the back.
Yeah,
it's like, no, Joe Biden, it's that you have dementia. I'm pretty sure it's the pulled hammy.
Well,
no, we don't believe you. You're making up an excuse right now because you're attempting to lie. If we want to eliminate the possibility of lies, let's use the system that we've always used and the scientific experts have said is perfectly safe.
Yeah, and it's even worse than that. They're not even just trying to cover up for maybe a Biden loss and the weakness of their candidate. They're trying to say, no matter what happens, the only reason that Donald Trump could possibly win re-election is fraud. The only reason is because he stole the election, and now we have to have an uprising to take it back. Donald Trump is a threat to America. Right? That's exactly what they're trying to say.
I'll tell you what's a threat to America.
Can I also just make
one? But we do have Rand Paul, and I really want to get to cuties.
Senators again? No, I'm kidding. Here's the thing. Who is the party that has been saying over and over again, you should just accept the results, accept the results, accept the results, never do anything bad? And now they're saying, oh, well, if we don't like the results, let's just overturn the government.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. That's exactly what they're saying now. So this is an article from Washington Post. They ran an op-ed by a member of the Transition Integrity Project. First, I thought it was, transition in kids. No, it's a totally different thing. It's their titles don't mean what they say, what they mean. Integrity means asshole. So, Transition Integrity Project. This was an op-ed by them at the Washington Post. So they kind of legitimized this person, sort of like, Vice with the Portland shooter. This person wrote, a landslide for Joe Biden resulted in a relatively ordered transfer of power. Every other scenario we looked at involved street-level violence and political crises. You mean more of it?
Yeah.
You
and
mean
from
more
what
than
side?
Why? And why would it be that a landslide win for Biden, but not a landslide win for Trump? Let's eliminate the people, the middle right there. Let's eliminate the median. Let's eliminate that concrete girder that Johnny Boy drove me into when we went to go to the AIDS walk. Let's eliminate that, and people who go, well, you know what? Maybe it could have gone either way, but they're saying landslide. So a landslide for Donald Trump, my right, your left, means that there will be unrest, according to this article. Street-level violence. But a landslide for Biden won't. What does that say about the supporters of the losing party when combined, keep in mind, in tandem with the previous losing party, instead of showing up and delivering a concession speech, sat and cried in the room like a bitch? Now, I'm not supposed to say that because she's a woman, but you would say it about any guy. You'd say, don't sit there and cry like a bitch.
Equal rights.
Oh, I can't. It's the prejudice of soft expectations because we didn't expect you to cry like a bitch.
I really think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot of crying. That's it. That's the most likely, most prevalent result that will happen in an event of a Trump victory.
By the way, we get a lot of people crying who are subscribed to us because you don't hit the notification bell.
Oh, yeah.
10 a.m. Monday through Thursday is when we do the show, but hit the notification bell. You
Always
know
missing
about
the show.
all of the live streams. 10 a.m. And next Tuesday night we'll be doing the Trump Town Hall live.
Oh,
Here's another one. There's already a network of left-wing organizations making plans for, this is the quote from Daily Beast, occupy shit, hold space, and shut things down, not just on Election Day, but for weeks. And this is what really bothers me, because people will say we're being conspiratorial right here. Like, oh, this is one of those QAnon things. No, you know what? Well, hold on a second. Let's do a side-by-side where Daily Beast wrote this article Okay, they said that we should expect violence, not on Election Day, but for weeks. Let's bring up this side-by-side overlay if you can get it. And then yesterday, writing Trumpkins are losing their mind over Occupy Wall Street's faux plans for a White House siege. Can you believe these Trump supporters believe there will be violent unrest or a siege? You! You told me there was going to be violent unrest. Hold on a second. I want to make sure I get occupy shit, hold space, shut things down, not just on Election Day for weeks. So it's not that I'm a Trumpkin. It's that my mistake was trusting you, Daily.
No, Stephen, you're misinterpreting it. That is what they're now calling a correction.
That's right.
They were in error, so to cover it up, they're like, these Trumpkins, I can't believe they believed us.
Well, it's going to be his fault no matter what. If he wins, it's his fault for winning, and so we have to go and steal the country back. If he loses, then we're going to, or if it's even close, like you said, it's going to be a problem. We're going to have street-level violence even if Biden wins narrowly. Like, who's going to be violent at that point?
Well, yeah, and you remember all the violent uprising when Obama won in 2008.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, when the Tea Party and people showed up and left the places cleaner than they found it.
Those guys,
and used pokey sticks to pick up trash like ex-cons. And then the media said they're stabbing people of color with pokey sticks.
Yes, there's video evidence of it. They shouted the N-word.
The media called POCs trash?
Whoa.
You watch your tongue. You may think you're amongst them as a minority, but you don't count.
I'm about to be slightly frustrated by that.
They don't accept you to the club, Bill.
Slightly. Speaking of slightly frustrated, look at Jake Dapper's hairdo. It's like he said, give me the Willard. And right now they're talking about Donald Trump.
Oh, my God.
Concealing the coronavirus threat. It's almost criminal. Okay. Let's get to that.
Yes, thank you.
The big story is, of course, everyone is trying to say that Donald Trump lied to the public.
Yeah, supposedly.
Right? This comes from the Woodward interview that Donald Trump gave with his journalist, who, by the way, I was impressed because this guy has been very unfair to Donald Trump in the past.
Yeah.
So I was surprised that he gave him more information. The media confronted, and we'll show the full clip in context, but first, you should see what the media is doing and that they confronted Kayleigh McEnany? I don't know. Yeah. She used to book the show Huckabee when I was there. She was very nice.
Cool.
Touching young lady. The media attacking her over Donald Trump's, as you see, this is the news right now, criminal activity.
Did President Trump intentionally mislead the American people about the threat of COVID, a pandemic that has now cost the lives of nearly 200,000 Americans?
Absolutely not. This president, at a time when you're facing insurmountable challenges, it's important to express confidence. It's important to express calm.
Always play it down. Is playing it down, is that expressing calm? It seems dishonest. It seems.
Can
like
you read the rest of the quote?
That's how much they put in.
Is it hinted in your plunging neckline?
Please do.
Do you deny that?
We'll get to that. But you know what? Come on. Let's just. She has this plunging neckline as a reporter, and then Kayleigh McEnany has, instead of that, a shirt and a cross. Good versus evil.
Contrast.
It's just one of those things. People are like, why would you look at a woman and think of, why would you romanticize her? Because I see tits.
Yeah. They're on display.
That's what they want you to see.
Here is there was a quote, and they edited it out of context. Did Donald Trump say, play it down? Not the most artful use of language, but let's listen to the clip in context.
I wanted to always play it down. I still like playing it down.
Yes, sir.
Because I don't want to create a panic.
Now, keep in mind, he wasn't saying that it didn't exist. Playing it down means I don't want people to panic while he was banning travel.
Yeah,
from China. He had already taken actions, but he was playing it. He should have said, you know what, listen, I didn't want to blow it out of proportion. That's clearly what he's saying if you look at in totality at this point of this interview where he's saying he's still playing it down. He had taken many actions to prevent the spread of the coronavirus.
Exactly, and so they're trying to hang him on his words. They're like, oh, he knew that it was deadly, and there's some other stuff that we'll get to.
Don't say that, because then people will take your quote out of context. So they're trying to hang Donald Trump on his own words. No, they're trying to hang him on an out of context.
Well, that's what I was getting to, right? They're trying to hang him on something that actually doesn't exist. They're saying that means that he was lying to the American public. He knew that this was the bubonic plague, and he said everything's fine. Go about your daily lives. That's not what he said.
Could you say a conspiracy?
Yeah, exactly, and that's not what he did. He actually took action. So they're divorcing his words and his actions over here and saying the words sound bad to us, even though they're not. And his actions, we don't want to take a look at those because those were actually proactive steps.
By the way, Woodward could not have believed that he was lying to the American public because it would have been his duty to release it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead, he's like, he's trying to say, again, just like an athlete, playing off an injury, playing it down, because you don't want people don't tend to act rationally when they are panicked.
Yeah,
that is For an example, see the Democratic Party with coronavirus and shutting down all
with Joe
businesses.
Biden.
So can we also remember the context here? So they showed a clip earlier from February 2nd where it was like, hey, the virus, we're trying to understand it, but it doesn't seem to be, just like a widespread pandemic at this point. Well, it wasn't considered a widespread pandemic in the first week of February. This interview occurred in the second or third week of March.
Right.
Remember, in the second or third week of March, we had Nancy Pelosi going down to Chinatown, going, everything's fine here, come on down and get the dim sum. I mean, remember what was done there. And all of the information that we're now, with hindsight, understanding from March and February was all public.
What is dim sum?
It's basically Chinese brunch.
Oh.
Is it? Is
Yeah,
that like
it's
an actual
amazing.
dish?
I thought it was
No,
a dish.
it's like a style. Oh, there are dim sum dishes. It's like tapas, but Chinese and at brunch.
So like the buffet at Harrah's.
Similar
no.
but less cockroach.
Fewer, Could use a sneeze shield though.
Yeah.
Oh,
not that one.
We don't believe in those.
That's for sure.
See Wuhan. We don't believe in sneeze shields.
Just use your hand and lick your. If you can't get good grip on dumpling, lick your palm. Eat up.
Yeah, but we do.
Hold on, I have to go pet a bat.
We actually do that.
You know who was taking
very accurate, Stephen. Your impressions are getting so.
That's part of the culture. I like it.
I don't know. It's the inherent racism. Here is the clip, by the way, in what was it? This is in March. Donald Trump. Again, for context, him talking about the virus.
They say we wish President Trump would give more bad news. Give bad news. I'm not about bad news. I want to give people hope. I want to give people a feeling that we all have a chance. I want to give people a feeling of hope. I could be very negative. I could say, wait a minute, those numbers are terrible. This is going to be horrible. This is a horrible thing.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
This is him around that time in March saying the exact same thing as he was saying to Woodward. They're just trying to use the words, play it down. And again, for context, we should trust the scientists. We should trust the experts. So I don't really know why that matters when this isn't a scientific issue. It's the media trying to lie to people proactively. Here is your favorite got no strings to hold me down, marionette in chief Fauci saying there were no lies.
We're talking about the reality of what was going on. And then when we would get up in front of the press conferences, which were very, very common after our discussions with the president, he really didn't say anything different than we discussed when we were with him. So I may not be tuned in to the right thing that they're talking about, but I didn't really see any discrepancies between what he told us and what we told him and what he ultimately came out publicly and said.
That man owns no upper lip. Grow a mustache. Some
Cover
people
it up.
require it. Either watchers of cuties or you. We will get to, we do have Rand Paul, so I do want to get to these points. So this is also really important. It's in the same vein of the fact that this media accused President Trump of calling the coronavirus a hoax, which he never did. He said that the politicization of the coronavirus being used against him was the latest hoax. And he was actually talking about someone, a fan, a supporter, talking to him. Here's the quote in context.
Kaylee, if he's not lying, why did he call it a hoax?
Oh, wait, that's a different. Sorry, that was the
that's
wrong
the one
one.
where they called it.
Sorry. That was the one again. They're saying, why did he call it a hoax? I apologize.
That's
And then I have the next clip. It's almost like this is the Young Turks here, where it's like, sorry, that was the wrong clip. Let me explain it to you because they don't prepare clips. That was them last night. So this is important to note. They were reiterating last night, why did he call it a hoax? Here is the clip that I initially thought we were going to. It's hard to see through the spit hood. Don't put it on your hands, quarterback Garrett.
Don't do that.
Just mashing the palm like your Tess Holiday on the keyboard. Get a speak
Very
and spell.
dishonest people. Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. You know that, right? Coronavirus. One of my people came up to me and said, Mr. President, they tried to beat you on Russia. That didn't work out too well. They couldn't do it.
His supporter was Jan Brady.
They tried the impeachment hoax. That was on a perfect conversation. They tried anything. They tried it over and over. They've been doing it since you got in. It's all turning. They lost. It's all turning. Think of it. And this is their new hoax. But, you know, we did something that's been pretty amazing. We're 15 people in this massive country. And because of the fact that we went early, We could have had a lot more than that.
And I'm sure people will take that clip and say, oh, way more than 15 people died. He was talking about it already being a pandemic in Europe that had spread. And keep in mind, in that exact same clip, again, context, this is what Change My Mind is. Change My Mind is not, people always say, well, why don't you do more debates? Well, we have people on the show, we debate them. But Change My Mind is not that. Change My Mind is encouraging you to rationalize your position. Let's rationalize this. He said the impeachment hoax. Okay, is he saying that the impeachment never happened, that it never existed? No, what he is saying is they were trying to falsely politicize the issue of impeachment on something that he didn't do. So, by that same token, he's not saying the coronavirus doesn't exist, just like the impeachment obviously exists. He doesn't think it's a figment of his imagination like Joe Biden. He's like, what happened? Was there impeachment? I pooped. No. He is saying that the coronavirus politicization right now is their new hoax to say that Donald Trump didn't believe it. He's actually pointing out the hoax is that he thinks it's a hoax.
Right, exactly. And they're saying that he's responsible for it and that the coronavirus is laid squarely at the feet of Donald Trump. Like, it's not the mayor's responsibility in New York City for doing all the stuff that they did. It's not Cuomo's responsibility. It's not anybody else's responsibility, Gavin Newsom in California. None of your governors or mayors can actually do anything for you. It's only the president's responsibility, and that's a hoax. That's not true. These guys have their own state emergency plans for a reason, and they did a bad job enacting those. So maybe go and talk to them.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that Nancy Pelosi thought the coronavirus was a hoax.
No.
But I think that she was playing it down when she said, why don't you take me to Chinatown? That's what I think.
And don't forget, everything that Trump was actually doing at that time was to try and protect the American borders, put restrictions
What are those?
in.
Stuff a president does.
That apparently don't exist according to some on the left.
they
But,
don't. No.
what's ultimately most hilarious about that is that he was doing that and they were saying you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
But then every example of a country where coronavirus has been beat, the curve has been flattened, they shut down the borders.
Right. Yeah.
Right, and they didn't actually have to lock down every single place. Here's the problem.
We're way behind most other Western countries, by the way, in reopening schools.
Well,
That's an American problem.
there's plenty of countries that we can look to that had less draconian measures that they implemented and had better success with the virus for a number of reasons.
Sweden?
The
Let's
reason
not tar and feather the good land of Draconia.
No,
They're good people.
Draconia. No. It's terrible. No, I'm done. I completely, I had a thought.
I don't know how to transition.
I didn't want to.
Legally, that was a resignation.
Sorry.
See,
No, I had a thought. I
That's
just
what
didn't want
you
to
do
go.
on election night.
Yeah.
Antifa, you go, all right.
All right.
I'm done.
You
I
got
think that's the first time I've done that. No, I'm
Can we,
done.
with the Antifa, the people at the White House trying this, can we double up on spit hoods? Because that's not going to get it done.
That's not going to work.
You have to cross stitch it, I think.
If I can
don't know.
arc my morning Topo Chico.
Look, we need to take the lessons from toilet paper and bring them to spit hoods. One ply
Yes.
is no good. Must double ply,
ply.
triple ply,
and with, like, the
luxurious.
oils in
Right,
it.
like that Sheryl Crow. That Sheryl Crow said, use one square.
Just
Remember
one.
Sheryl Crow? She was the unattractive,
was
had
like-
a few hits in the 90s.
Yeah,
That was
I
like
remember
20 years ago.
I don't have a square to spare, Steven.
All right.
That quote.
I don't know how to transition to this next. This was a struggle for me this morning. Cuties.
Yeah.
So here's here's the overlay. Cuties now released on Netflix, and this is a film that, any way you slice it, sexually exploits children. You can watch the actual clip, and I did this morning, and I felt so gross. This is another example of a chasm. 90% on Rotten Tomatoes versus 6% from the audience. And you have people on the left right now with cuties. Again, when we said this was a slippery slope, they're trying to say this is actually a film that explores the hypersexualization of youth and the innocence. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry. You don't get to explore those topics by sexually exploiting children.
Yeah.
No.
Well, the pedophiles watching are not like, oh, it's a comment. Never
Doesn't
mind.
matter.
What are they trying to say?
away.
Yeah.
What is their scene motivation along with their overall motivation? And what sort
I'm
of
gonna
creative
change my whole
substitutions did
mind
they
now.
make? No, I think they're thinking,
Yeah.
It's hard with the sound off
Monsters.
and their pants off.
so it is I didn't want to show you guys because I didn't want it, if there happens to be, and out of the millions of people who watch, I'm sure there's one lone NAMBLA card carrier in there.
Yeah.
So I decided to at least try and reflect just how revolting it is without breaking the law, as the Netflix producers did. And even Brendan and Bryce will come in here.
Yeah.
Let's have them come on in and show you exactly in person. Cuties, exactly what it is that you guys would see on Netflix. All right, guys, let's start there. Keep in mind, picture, you have to use your imagination. They are 8-year-old girls. And let's hit the beat. You guys start twerking. Cuties. Get into it a little more. What's that, Brendan? Well, no, this is the whole point. Yeah, they do it on Netflix. It's fine even with the rating system. Just, you come by it honestly. Look, you got abs. Start twerking. Let's hit the beat. Imagine you're a 7-year-old girl. Jeffrey Epstein's what?
What is the...
Okay, the point here is that they are sexually exploiting young children. We are trying to point out the moral repugnancy of sexually exploiting people for views.
Right.
Yeah, we're doing good work overall.
But we're doing that by sexually exploiting people.
For views, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
But you're not minors. Okay, all right. Well, even Bryce, you can give us a couple.
Give us some thrusts.
See you, Brendan.
Wow, that was epic.
6-year-old girl.
Yeah.
He's going to keep going.
This track is long.
This is
that's
so.
all I practiced.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. I
really
appreciate it. That was practiced.
Wow.
That man owns no ass. It's like Yoko Ono. It's just 2 thighs with a split.
I never noticed that about Yoko Ono.
By the way, those outfits are far less revealing than the 7, 8, 9-year-old girls are wearing in Cuties. You know what I want to do? Because let me read actually for you real quick. This is a review from Daily Beast where it talks about people across the political spectrum have expressed rightful concern about the streaming giant's choice, blah, 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 blah. In Cuties, it talks about how she's a Muslim girl in the film. It's a Muslim girl who comes from a Muslim household who then has a bunch of friends who get her to start twerking and stripping effectively.
Although they describe it as conservative.
Right. They describe it as that. It says, Ducoure's film rigorously examines the ways teen girls mimic the images they see on social media, the ones that tell them their So you would think, this is a judgment. This is a condemnation of them trying to imitate the Cardi B's of the world, the Nicki Minaj's, whoever the latest fitness model is selling MyFitT. But no, of course, listen, do you think that any leftist reporters, the people who give it a 90% rating, would judge the current hip-hop culture, which is by and large African-American, and say that's sexual exploitation? No, never. What they say is what they see on social media, the ones that tell them their bodies are all wrong, their presentations too childish, their lives unremarkable. Yes. So let's have children stripping, reenacting sexual sex, acting out sex because of fat shaming.
Oh my God!
I think children should be childish. I don't know if that's a crazy thought there.
Yeah, I know.
Preserve some of their innocence.
And couldn't they, if they were trying to find a voice, couldn't they have found an expression that was being a ballerina, maybe ballroom dance,
finger painting,
something other than getting on the pole? I mean, couldn't we have something like that to help them get in touch with
one of the
their
ways
inner
that you would have just
feminism?
done this is you go interview the influencers who are doing it and asking them, you have young fans. Are you encouraging? I mean, this is a very classic way to investigate people who are influencing children without showing the children and exploiting the children
no acceptable.
further.
I was so uncomfortable watching. I'll tell you this. The 2 things I can't really watch are torture porn and then anything that involves the sexualization of children. I just feel gross. I can't not picture that kid's parents who allowed them to take part in this.
You know what's really interesting is rather than showing, a successful woman, taking care of her business, taking care of a family, honestly, CNN is doing right now, showing the first woman CEO of Citibank. They're out there showing what you could do if you want to be a WAP.
Yeah.
Well, you can't be something if you don't
That's
see
for
it.
Italians.
Yeah.
Have a
well,
right.
I think
exactly. They've talked about
Pardon my
representation
nomenclature.
and the importance of representation in media. Yeah, exactly. So they know what representation does to modeling. It makes people do stuff.
How do they pitch this to the young kids' parents? Listen, this is going to be a film. We want it to be clear. This is a film about the coming of age of young women and the sexual pressures and exploitation that are forced upon them. Oh, really? And how are you going to do? You're going to do that by judging these influencers and people who actually thrust these kinds of sexual pressures upon them? No, we're not. We're going to take a different tact. But we do think that the message will be very clear, and you will see it. It will be tastefully done with proper artistic measures taken so that people understand this is not about the sexualization of children, but that young women can be anything they want to be. How do you plan to do that?
Right. And less.
And by the way, that's not an exaggeration.
No.
I'm talking about 8-year-old girls in cheeky shorts and sports bras going, "Bleh!"
And film critics love it.
And film critics are like, well, this is the kind of messaging we need.
Yeah,
so let's
exactly.
see how young women, what expectations we have of them. If you run for president and lose, you don't have to offer a concession speech. You can sit in the back room and cry. And if you want a Netflix special, screw being Carly Fiorina and a CEO of Hewlett Packard. Just rub your nether regions on an RE20.
And
That's how
they
Netflix
were
does
doing I saw some of these clips because people are tweeting about this, left and right.
Yeah.
They were pelvic thrusting into the floor. Like there's no other thing that could be, right? Twerking and all that stuff is horrible.
That's it.
And they then cut to that, and I was like, I didn't know it could get worse. It just got worse.
I would only allow it if there's a very short cut of a child pelvic thrusting into the floor, and then it results in a nuclear holocaust, and it ends with a message: "Don't hump the floor."
Yes.
That's
public
the
service
only way to do it.
Yeah.
And even then, you don't create a film by... I'm amazed that it's legal. You know what we should do? This French filmmaker, the producers at Netflix, because they're talking about how this is about peace in a Muslim family and traditionalism versus modern sexuality and the loss of youth. You know what? Go do an open screening of this in Iran, Lebanon, Egypt. Take your pick. Any Muslim country without security.
Yeah. And by the way,
book the ticket. One way.
You're not going to need a return.
Well, they're just candidates for child brides, right? Is that?
Yeah, that's pretty much. Well, here's the thing.
Oh no, this is Cannes, Libya. Oh, this is gonna hurt.
Oh no.
So it's a different festival. By the way, this is an award-winning film. This is not just some B film like that we're going to comment on, right? It won awards for this. People stood up and clapped and said, "This is more like what we want."
They gave her a leg lamp. All right.
So, what is very ironic and even worse about this is that Netflix made a lot of money off the Jeffrey Epstein special. A lot of people watched it.
Yeah.
It was a very good indictment of the system and the people that protected him, and especially everything bad that was happening and how these women were groomed and how their sense of identity was compromised at the young age of 13.
Right.
And now we've got 8-year-olds that you're saying you're doing the exact same part of it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Ghislaine Maxwell has a freaking executive producer credit on Cuties.
I was going to say, I thought it was in poor taste that Epstein had an associate producing credit. Listen, we have to get going. I believe we have Rand Paul on the show.
Yeah.
So I believe he's waiting for us. We are going to go to the latest installment of White Privilege Boys for you guys first, and then talk about the recent close call that he had, along with some of the Democrat politicians who are taking their own private security measures while encouraging the defunding of police for you. Rand Paul, right up after this break.
It explains the trouble that I'm always in. It explains.
And now for the adventures of the White Privilege Boy. Hey there, boys. Good to see you again. What can I do you for? Thanks, Mr. MacArthur. Well, you can start by giving us everything in the cash register. Well, golly, is that a firearm you're pointing at me there? Yeah. You know it. I'm very disappointed in you, boys. We don't care. Empty it out. Yeah, empty it out. Empty it out, man. Oh, I suppose boys will be boys. I'm going to have to call the sheriff, but you've got me for now. Go ahead, take everything. Thanks, Mr. MacArthur. Thanks. Pistol whip him. Oh, all right, now, that's one for you. That's one for you. Go ahead, take some Bazooka Joe and get out of here, you rascals. Oh, those boys. What pickle will they find themselves in next? Stay tuned for next week's installment of Adventures of the White Privilege Boys. Black Rifle Cafefe.
No, sir, it's actually just how it is in the prompter. It's coffee.
Okay. Cafefe. Okay, folks, frankly, it's the best coffee out there. AR-15 coffee. M16 coffee. It's a coffee with Bazooka Joe. The coffee, look at the bread. Can we get the hero shot? Do they still make Bazooka Joe? It used to be a penny. Rifle of Color coffee. This coffee should be dating a Kardashian, right? This coffee is the best coffee. Black Rifle coffee. And unlike other companies who claim small batch or premium, Black Rifle coffee isn't roasted, frankly, until you place your order, making sure it's the freshest coffee. Many people don't know it's a bean. It goes bad. Coffee. Go to blackriflecoffee.com/Crowder. Enter the promo code Crowder to receive 20% off your first order of Black Rifle coffee.
Yeah, I think that's the best we're going to get. Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. President.
Great. Someone give me a Diet Coke. All right, very glad to have our next guest. He's been on the show quite a few times.
so
And it's been
excited.
tough to get guests because we're broadcasting all the time live in the morning, so it's tough to get pre-tapes. You know him, you love him. He's a senator. That's what he is. He's an actual senator. We always talk about trusting the experts. Don't trust this show. Though, do go to blackriflecoffee.com/Crowder, 20% off. Senator Rand Paul, thank you for being on the show, sir.
Glad to be with you, although I was told it was dangerous after your fourth cup of coffee. That's not your fourth cup of coffee, is it?
No, it's my fifth, and it has an adverse reaction where it buzzes and then it mellows me out.
And then you have to go to the bathroom.
Yes,
so
where I use cocaine. So I'm joking. I know he's a senator. He was on our show. Someone who used cocaine. Senator Rand Paul. I almost said Mr. I apologize, Senator Paul. I almost said Mr. Rand Paul.
Yeah, Mr. Senator's fine.
Okay. We'll go with Doctor.
Yeah, that's fine.
You, obviously, people know that you recently had a run-in after you spoke at the RNC a few weeks ago, and this is when Trump's nomination happened. Can you explain for people who may not be familiar, I think everyone is, what happened afterward when you were, what I saw was being mobbed, and we have some B-roll here.
Yeah, the interesting thing about it was that you see some people commenting online, oh, he must have wanted attention, and why would he be there, and why was he in the middle of this mob? Well, we were leaving the White House, and our hotel was right across the street from the exit.
Right.
We got to the exit, though, and we could see the mob, and we could see them chasing people down, sort of like, a hare darts out and a pack of wolves chases them. That's what the mob was. So we didn't leave.
Yeah.
The Secret Service said you should take the bus with a police escort. So we did. It took about 45 minutes, but it took us farther away from our hotel. So we had to eventually come back towards where the mob was. And so we got in an Uber like a normal human. I'm just like any other human. I get in an Uber or a Lyft. I don't have always a fancy limousine or 10 security guards.
You take your Lyft to the Radisson. We get it.
So we got in an Uber and we tried to get there, but the police wouldn't let us go down the last 2 blocks. We pleaded with them, and it really was a mistake on their part not to let us drive because it was unsafe to be on the street, which my wife continues to remind me it was a mistake to get out of the car. Correct. But we only had 2 blocks, and we could see at the end of the first block some policemen, so that's about 100 yards. We began walking, much to the chagrin of my wife and the other 2 ladies who didn't really want to get out of the car. I said, we can make it. It's not that far. Those were the last bit of good advice I was able to give. So we got about halfway there. There were small groups passing us. And when people say, oh, he was heckled, well, that's what the small groups did. They jeered at us and heckled. And if that's all that happened, we would have never said a thing. Sure. People yelled at us, hey, whatever. And we crossed to the other side of the street and we avoided them. And that was not a big deal. But as we got within about 20 yards of a police car with 2 or 3 policemen standing there and some police motorcycles, I think, right as we saw them, we were headed towards them. We were about 20 yards away. A big crowd came around the corner chanting and marching. Probably 30 people in the crowd. They spotted me.
Just to be clear. Oh, wait, hold on a second. What was that? Just to be clear, that is a crowd. 30 people is a crowd. Yeah. 3's company. 30 is a crowd. Yeah.
So about 30 came towards us, and then at some point someone said, it's Rand Paul. We've got Rand Paul. We've got him trapped. Ooh. But then 30 became 60, became 90, became over 100 people. They came from every sewer in every direction. They surrounded us. And these were vile, screaming, hateful people that were basically completely surrounding us with no space between us and them. There were people throwing fluid on us that we had no idea what it was.
I can guess.
There were people, saying things and using terms to, call my wife and this and that. It was a terrible situation. Even with us standing next to the policemen, I wasn't sure that we would not be overwhelmed by the size of the crowd and the policemen. Right. I don't think the policeman knew who I was either. So I leaned over to him and said, they know who I am. I'm in Congress. You need to call for reinforcements. So he calls into his headset. I can't hear what he says, but we're still there for probably 15 minutes with the crowd becoming more and more menacing. At some point, a few more policemen show up, and they have bikes, and they use the bikes and their bodies to serve as sort of a barricade, a human barricade, to try to walk slowly, and this crowd sort of keeps pressing in.
So they had no fear. They knew these were uniformed officers, because you hear a lot of complaints going, these are ununiformed officers. No, they knew they were cops and didn't care anyway. They just wanted to hit you that much.
They were uniformed. They all had bulletproof vests on.
Right.
And so as we're making our way, at one point, one of the cops gets shoved through his bicycle, about falls over backwards, and I was able to grab the back of his bulletproof vest and stabilize him and said, look, I'm behind you if you need help. I don't know how much help I was going to be, but I was offering to be helpful if I could.
At that point, you're just an extension of his bulletproof vest. You act as extra security. It's like putting up it's like putting up, just one of those ballistic testing gels in front of the bulletproof vest. So you'll offer him some more protection. But I did want to ask you one thing, because you just said they knew who you were. I would argue they know that you're famous. They didn't know who you were because they were chanting, say her name, say her name. These people don't even know that you were the one who authored the Justice for Breonna Taylor bill. Can you explain that to people? I was amazed that they picked you, of all folks.
Yeah, there's a certain irony to being threatened with violence by people saying, say her name, when I've actually met with the family. And I've also introduced legislation. The Breonna Taylor Act gets rid of no-knock raids.
Right.
I've just never been a fan of no-knock raids. I think going in the middle of the night for marijuana or some drugs, it's a threat to the police officers who often get shot, but also inside people get shot. And I think of it from my own personal perspective. If someone comes into my house after 10 o'clock, I'm not asking a lot of questions, and I'm probably shooting. Because nobody can come. You're just not used to someone coming in your house after this is after midnight. And the
unless
thing
you're
is,
Barney Frank and it's your basement, but yes.
But anyway, so they're chanting this, and not one of them has any idea of introducing this legislation. But here's the gist of it. Black Lives Matter, the woman who's in charge of it in Louisville, was asked about this, and she said, yes, we could see fear in their eyes, but we want them to live in fear. We have to live in fear, so they should. So the goal is not changing legislation. The goal is terrorizing public officials. Yeah. And the thing is every damn one of them needs to be arrested, as far as I'm concerned. Disorderly conduct, preventing someone from going somewhere, going in a private restaurant, throwing people's food on the floor, surrounding people in a restaurant. It's all invasion of a private space, or it's publicly disorderly conduct. But here's what happened. One of the policemen that was defending us, a few minutes later, was punched in the face and got stitches above his eye. Yep. Do you know what the D.C. court system did with the assaulter? Released on his own recognizance. Yeah. And so I tweeted out, after we found out he'd been assaulted and they released him, I tweeted, if you're looking for him, try Kenosha. Because these people...
He took the midnight train to Kenosha.
We're seeing these people, some of the same faces are in Portland, Kenosha, D.C., Louisville. How are they getting there? They're staying at the W Hotel, the Willard Hotel. The Willard Hotel might be $500 to $1,000 a night. Who's paying for them to stay in the Willard Hotel? Yeah. Who's paying for them to have air flight? Who's paying them to do this? And here's the sad truth of it. It's probably not going to be a sinister name like George Soros. It's going to be corporate America. Yeah. Corporate America is giving money to Black Lives Matter. And my guess is if we follow the money, the people who paid for the plane tickets and the hotels and the people who continue to do this is Black Lives Matter. Yeah. But people should not be giving money to a group that is then funding thuggery. If you're in favor of trying to support African Americans and success and all this for the community, give it to the United Negro College Fund, give it to the NAACP. But giving money to Black Lives Matter is giving money to promote thuggery and violence and arson and all these things happening in our cities. Yeah. And corporate America ought to be ashamed of themselves.
I have 3 questions for you, and I know that you're a busy man. I did change my mind on this. Do you believe that Black Lives Matter, knowing what we've just discussed, should be classified or at least gets close to being a domestic terrorist organization?
I think people should be, I don't know what it means, to tell you the truth, but I think people need to see what they're for. They're for getting rid of the nuclear family. They're for socialism. They're for transforming. They think America's a rotten place and ought to be a completely different place based on a socialist or Marxist model. Yeah. So people need to be aware of that. And I think just calling them a terrorist organization, that it might help. But I think really what happens...
Well, I mean treating them as such. I mean treating them in the sense of keeping an eye on them and being aware of their... Because like you're saying, listen, if there are sleeper cells that people discuss, we always are following the money trail. We're going, how did this we have receipts. What flight did this person get on? But we don't have any answers. And like you said, it has been documented that these people have been found in multiple cities and what they stand for. But we really don't have a way of tracking what seems to be systemically organized crime within the organization. That's my concern.
I think there definitely is an aspect of that. The danger to calling the whole group terrorist is there are probably elements of it who are peaceful protesters arguing for speech. And so I hate to say that we're going to completely eliminate this. See, in a marketplace of ideas, I would rather that we announce, and I have a voice on television, begin to tell corporate America you're making a big mistake. So I know a gentleman in my town who works in pharmaceutical sales for like a big pharmaceutical company. If he donates to Black Lives Matter, they're doubling and tripling his donation. It is a preferred and it is a supported donation with this large pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
They need to be told that they're supporting thuggery and that at least an aspect of Black Lives Matter are thugs that are inciting riots and that are preaching that we should have our public officials live in fear and to be tormented. If that's corporate America needs to stop and defund them. Instead of defunding the police, corporate America needs to defund Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to be clear. I delineate between the sentiment, the idea of the movement that Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, justice, the idea that nonviolent drug offenders should not be held in prison or held longer than their sentence, like we see with Kamala Harris, and Donald Trump has done a lot for criminal justice reform. Black Lives Matter, the sentiment is different from the organization. I have two questions for you. I know Gerald wanted one, but we'll have to get you in later. Do you think that there's going to be more unrest or what do you expect if President Trump wins re-election? We just went through a bunch of articles here posted at Daily Beast and these plans to occupy the White House lawn or in front of the lawn, them talking about Hillary Clinton saying that Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstance. That's concerning. What do you see happening if Donald Trump wins re-election?
I think I'm not positive, but what I would say is I think there is more unrest in our cities if you do not arrest the perpetrators. If people can throw rocks at the police and not be arrested, if you can punch a policeman and not be arrested, if you can throw a Molotov cocktail, if you can set a fire and not be arrested, that's what happens. So you have to have some ability to arrest the lesser crimes for a reasonable amount of punishment, but you have to do that. With regard to the election, I think it's really the philosophy of the two candidates. Joe Biden says, I'm not for defunding the police, but I'm for reallocating the money to other places. That sounds to me like defunding the police. Joe Biden has not spoken out, and neither has Kamala Harris, have not spoken out and said the violence against my wife and I was wrong. They're saying, setting fire and burning the courthouse is wrong, but they're not rebuking Black Lives Matter for the tactic of assaulting and confronting and terrorizing basically public officials. Not one word. And I've called them out and asked Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to say something about it. Not a peep. So yes, I think there'll be more violence and there will be a reaction if Trump wins. But in some ways, in the long term, the only way you get less violence in our cities is you got to get rid of the people who run the cities. And for 50 years, Democrats have run all of our major cities. The top 10 cities with a top 10 murder rate all are run by Democrats and have been for 50 years. So what we need to do and what needs to happen to the good people who live like on the south side of Chicago and are plagued by this violence and have their little kids shot in drive-by shootings, they need to be told, Democrats don't give a crap about your young black kids who are being shot. Democrats have run your city and allowed this violence. And if you want to get rid of violence in your city, vote for a Republican. Yeah. We have lots of African-American Republican candidates. The woman running in Baltimore, the young man running against Maxine Waters. We have some good candidates out there who are African-American but care about the community enough to want to stop the violence.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that this is a perfect example, you, at this point in time, Mr. Rand Paul, Doctor, Mr. Senator, Mr. Congress, of reasonable libertarian, of what libertarianism actually is, because both you and President Trump, okay, probably you're very anti-war in general. President Trump is one of the most anti-war presidents that I can remember in modern history. You're anti-arresting people for drug offenses. You're remarkably consistent. You wrote the Breonna Taylor Act. If people know your stance on no-knock warrants. But you are a libertarian, but you also understand the legitimate role of government right now of the police force. So you can be a libertarian, be against foreign wars that are unnecessary, and also say, you know what? We don't defund our police and we make sure that people breaking the law are punished. Because that is much more consistent than Governor Whitmer obviously wants to defund the police. She just upgraded her security by $1.1 million and an 8-foot electrified fence because fences and walls work. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot supported the protest, defunding police. She's upping her security. You had Mayor Andrew Ginther of Columbus. His security is being upped. Ted Wheeler of Portland, once they tried to burn down his condo, all of a sudden, it's just a dust cloud of Mayor Ted Wheeler from where he used to be, and he's in a different county. Do you think that's important right now as kind of a representative, the baton holder right now of the sort of libertarian movement, that explaining to people a legitimate role of government, like a police force that can protect its citizens, is not socialism?
No, and I think it is important for libertarians, because some libertarians online have been criticizing me for wanting to go after some of these violent people in the cities.
Right.
But here's the thing. The true libertarian is against indiscriminate searching of financial records and phone records, the idea of warrantless searches. But libertarians, if they're thoughtful libertarians, are not against using probable cause and the Fourth Amendment. If you assault a police officer, you've got probable cause of that. You can go to a judge and say, the person who assaulted the police officer, should we look at their visa bill and their hotel bill and find out who's financing their behavior? Without question, that is completely libertarian to be for law enforcement. What would be not libertarian would be to say we're going to search the financial records of all people who we do facial recognition of who are marching in a protest. That would be terrible, and I'd be absolutely opposed to that, because I've been part of protests from the Tea Party movement. I don't want indiscriminate searching, but someone who commits a crime, yes, you look at their financial records. You have probable cause to, and you get permission from a judge for that person. But we don't do widespread searches. And one other thing on the gun issue, you mentioned all these people having security. Think of Mike Bloomberg. He's spent more money trying to erode and destroy the Second Amendment than anybody in the whole country, and yet he has armed guards. And so in the Mike Bloomberg world, poor people wouldn't get protection, rich people would, and they'd buy their protection. And that is the hypocrisy of these people and these political leaders who do have armed security guards. Do you think de Blasio's got armed security guards? They hate guns for the ordinary people, but they're happy to protect themselves.
Yeah, and it's not just about hypocrisy, like, hey, look, you're being a hypocrite. It's about the fact that they're systemically putting other Americans at risk, often the most vulnerable in minority communities, where over 80% of black Americans support at least as much, if not more, of a police presence than they have now, while they upgrade all of their own personal security. I know you must go. Dr. Rand Paul, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I think you're a great ambassador for what libertarianism is in 2020. I appreciate it.
Thank you. No more coffee today for you, though.
I'll do my best. Thank you, sir. Just Colombian gold, nose candy, booger sugar. He's gone, right? Yeah, I don't want to hear me talking about habits here. He's just still on Skype, and he just left.
He's like, I'm out.
We don't have another commercial break, do we? Before
Nope,
we close? We didn't plan on it. Okay. All right. You guys enjoy. Sorry, you had a question.
No.
What did you
I'll
want to ask
actually
him?
just make it into a comment. I was going to say, hey, I know that this study's just come out that 93% of the protests have been peaceful. In that moment, did you care that maybe 93% of the night had been peaceful up until then?
Yeah,
did it matter to you that 93% was good? You lived in the 7.
Yeah.
So
let's just say you're about to go give a speech, okay?
Yeah.
In an auditorium that seats exactly 100 people. And they say 93 of them don't have guns.
Yeah.
Go.
7 of them would like to kill you.
Yeah.
But that's only 7%.
It's only 7%. And
not gonna
that's
affect
why these
anything.
people don't, that's why there's no consistency on the
Yeah,
left. Because right now they feel like, well, we're part of the 93 and we hate another percentage. Once you're a part of that small percentage who the other majority of them or minority of Americans want to harm, and you realize that they're getting off scot-free, that guy punched a cop.
Yeah.
The guy who was going after, think about that, punched a cop to the point that he needed stitches. These guys, I wonder if these police right now out there at the riots, if there's like hockey players where they're not even going to replace their teeth, they're just going to put a mouth guard in and clear up the scar tissue after they're done with their whole career. That's what they do in hockey, because they're going to lose it again. Like, I don't replace tooth. I do after I've joined 50-50 club.
Yeah. Well, it was something that, maybe you can see where the protester was coming from, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look.
Left hook.
That officer was protecting Senator Rand Paul, who was out there trying to get rid of no-knock warrants. He's definitely the guy that we want to go after.
It was a right-wing protest, actually.
And he's
that's
little.
what it was, yeah.
He's so little, Rand Paul. Like you said, like he basically at that point is like an additional helmet. I feel like
he's not going to help out a lot.
I feel like he was on that cop like cartoon cats. Like,
Extra storage.
Exactly.
The guy who met with Breonna Taylor's family, right?
Yeah, terrible guy.
I'm surprised we haven't seen an article that was like, Rand Paul comes to be white savior, talks to victims' family, tries to get justice. We don't need you, Whitey. I mean, that's literally anything that he does. BLM is twists the entire opposite way if they're not out there trying to assault him, his wife, and the officers who are protecting him.
I think that if you just got these Black Lives Matter, I mean, assuming there was a rational molecule in their body, which, listen, I stretch. But the point is, I bet if you were to get someone who could think critically, who is on board with the idea of Black Lives Matter and police brutality and having, limited government intrusion, if you could get them copies of Reason magazine from the 90s, 80s, whenever it started, through now, they would find more articles on police brutality or police reform in the libertarian publication than they had ever seen in their lives. They would say, these people are right-wing, you're bullshitting.
They look like they actually
And it's
want
the
to help.
Rand Pauls of the world. I bet you it's like Cigar Aficionado with Michael Jordan. I bet you they haven't had more cover models than the Pauls in Libertarian Weekly.
Yeah, well, you made a great point, too, asking him about making Black Lives Matter, declaring them maybe a terrorist group or something like that for domestic terrorism. And I think you're right. Like, they do need to be declared what they are, right? I don't care if 93% of them are peaceful. This is not like peaceful marches with Martin Luther King and the FBI was just trying to look into him or something like that. These are people that are going out and rioting and threatening people and committing violent acts. By the way, the guy that punched the cop, what do you think he's going to do next time? He's like, well, I punched a guy last time.
I got away with it.
I got away with it. He's either going to do the exact same thing or maybe up the ante a little bit. That's
like
why you don't play games.
Pissing on the rug.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, Joe Lewis doesn't do. You don't do that, do you, Joe Lewis?
That's great.
Oh, look at him. So peaceful.
Right, Joe Lewis?
It's the fire.
Are you awake? Are you alive?
He is.
There you go.
Oh,
okay.
there he is. Okay.
Thank you. He's going back.
I was worried there for a second.
I do that with my son. I'm like, are you breathing?
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. You guys still have to sit there, but I'm going to have to hit my close here for the next week. Let me know. Again, find the secret word that is available on the audio-only podcast if you're not subscribed on iTunes. It's not iTunes anymore. It's Apple, Android.
the same.
Next week, Tuesday night, we're going to be live streaming the town hall. Let me wrap this up and talk about Fat Pride. So, not just fat pride, but sometimes people say, I've gotten some flack lately where people say, hey, you can be harsh. And let me explain to you why I'm harsh, or why Rand Paul sometimes can be harsh, and why the right wing, why conservatives can be seen as harsh. And often we see that with parenting. I'll use my example with fat pride. I don't have a problem, just like with Black Lives Matter, I don't have a problem with people saying, hey, we need to make sure that we value black lives. I believe that all lives should be valued. And I'm not saying all lives matter. I'm not saying it confrontationally. I am saying, yes, I agree. If we were at a point right now where black lives were not as valued in our legal system, our currently established legal system as white lives, yeah, we need to fix that. And I would be right there with you when that was the case before the 1960s. So I'm not saying it to be a little pissant. I'm saying all lives matter, including black lives. I'm on board with you. Same thing here. I don't have a problem with people who are fat. I don't have a problem with people who support Black Lives. I have a problem with Black Lives Matter, the organization. I have a problem with the fat pride movement. And if it comes across as harsh, let me explain to you why. When I see a fat person at the gym or jogging, I just saw this morning. And you guys know I'm up early. Yeah. I'm up early like at 4 or something. Yeah. Every now and then I think of just sending a tweet to Jocko because every morning I would beat him. But I don't care that people know that I'm up at 4:15. So, I saw a very overweight person jogging this morning, and it was dark. It was before the sun was out, and it almost brought it. Honestly, sometimes it almost brings a tear to my eye. I wanted to hug. Having been that chubby little kid, I wanted to hug him and say, "This is great. Listen, it's gonna suck. This is terrible, but keep going. You're gonna get there." It brings me to tears if I see someone who is overweight, who's struggling, who clearly is not someone who has chosen the gym as a hobby. You know what doesn't impress me? People in yoga pants who love doing physical activities anyway. It's not hard. I'm one of those people. My activity would be a bag of flamin' hot Cheetos while binge watching something on Netflix, not Cuties. So the people who take those steps, who make that effort, despite the fact that it's not their natural inclination, are the ones that really touch me. And why am I harsh when I say, hey, look, you shouldn't be telling people who are 400 pounds Tess Holiday or anyone out there, or Black Lives Matter, use them as an analogy here, but you shouldn't be telling people that it's okay and they shouldn't feel ashamed for things that are bad for their health. You shouldn't tell people that, hey, it's okay, you shouldn't be ashamed of the fact that you mouthed off to a cop. That could be hazardous to your health. Having a blood-type pudding, having a cholesterol that can't be measured on a chart. They have to get one of those abacuses at a child doctor's room. That's not good for your health. And you know what else? You actually, it comes from love being harsh, because anyone here who's ever accomplished anything, you can take Audio Wade with guitar, you can take Corda Black Garrett with also music, what he's done with all these crafts and the makeup and the artifacts that he can make, like the Ark of the Covenant. You guys don't know, I can't look in the green room without my face melting. We have to keep that door closed.
You can't.
Gerald with his wine business, Bill with his law, me with what you see here. Whatever it is that you have worked hard to achieve, that is the greatest feeling in the world, because it can't be cheated. That feeling of accomplishment, of overcoming, of insurmountable, seemingly insurmountable obstacles being overcome, and knowing that you did it through putting in the work when no one expected you to, is the kind of feeling that cannot be faked. Just like getting an A on a test for a kid gives them a kind of feeling that you can't fake by not using a red marker. Just like a kid scoring the winning soccer kick, I don't know if they're called goals or ball in net, I'm straight, but just like the kid winning the soccer game, you don't give them the same feeling by saying, you know what, we're going to even out the score so that everybody feels good. And so when you just excuse behavior that you know is detrimental to people's, not only their lives, their livelihoods, their well-being, and then turn around and talk about mental health, well, guess what? The best thing that someone can do for their mental health is getting really, really good at something or accomplishing something. And I just see it as unempathetic. I see it as sociopathic to try and rob people, whether it's a minority, whether it's discriminated against gender, sex, take your pick today, or a fat person, because you want to white knight, really for no one else but for yourself, to feel good about telling somebody to be complacent. So I want you folks out there to take inventory of folks in your lives, and maybe some people who you thought are hard asses, like I've had this in my life. I've had it with my dad when I grew up. I'm like, why is he so hard? I realized that it's because he loved me most. He expected the most of me, and he was accomplished in what he did. And he knew that it was a feeling that couldn't be faked. So people who are out there, I want you to think, take a second, think of someone who maybe you sort of mislabeled for a while as someone who you thought was an ass. And ask yourself, were they actually just harsh? Were they actually just rough around the edges because they cared? Sometimes caring can come across as mean, even though that's not the intent. And I want you to think of that person. Once you think of them, reach out and thank them. And then think about what it is that they were being mean about, that maybe you weren't comfortable dealing with, and go and deal with it. Because we've all had it in our honest, quiet moments. Guess what? The CNNs, the Black Lives Matter, the Tess Holidays, the Instagrams, the Dove body pride movement, that all goes away, and you have to face yourself. And the truth is a feeling that can't be faked. You either know that you've accomplished something or you didn't. And I will tell you this, as someone growing up who believed some lies are not compassionate. Don't pass it along. Pass along harshness if you have to, in truth. All right, we'll see you next week. Have a huge stream on Tuesday. It's his live stream, not...
Subject for today. Unicorns, I love them. Unicorns, I love them. Unicorns, I love them. Yo, look at them. Unicorns. And I'm in the